Yo guys, and welcome to a new video. Today we will be getting cultured with Steven Spielberg's E.T. the Extra-Terrestrial. Alright, so we have already discussed 5 Akira Kurosawa films in this series, but today we are going back to Hollywood. Today we are going back to the actual well-known classics in English for English-spoken movies. And today we will be talking about one of the most wholesome ones that is out there, E.T. the Extra-Terrestrial. We will be doing the same thing as we did for all of these episodes. I will be talking about 3 fun facts about the behind the scenes, about the creation of this movie, 3 fun facts about the movie in general. I will give you my review and I will also tell you if this movie is currently rated in the Letterboxd or IMDb top 250 and if there are any remakes of this movie that you should be watchful for. So with that being said, let's get straight into this with the cultural impact that this movie had upon Hollywood and the movie scene. E.T. was very unique in what it was. It wasn't a big space opera like Star Wars was, and it was also not dystopian like, for example, Blade Runner. No, this movie focused more on intimacy, emotion, and a children's perspective on things. By doing this, Steven Spielberg created a blueprint for new family-centered science fiction films that were copied in movies and TV shows like Stranger Things, Super 8, or even a lot of Pixar films. This movie also proved that a blockbuster could both be critically revered by everyone, but also at the same time be a massive financial hit. E.T. the Extra-Terrestrial was the biggest blockbuster hit of the 1980s until it was overtaken by Jurassic Park, another Steven Spielberg movie. It elevated science fiction as a genre that was revered in Hollywood, and we can still feel the effects of that to this day, with science fiction being one of the biggest genres out there. And because of its childish nature, it also was a big pop culture phenomenon. The way this movie influenced things like advertising, with E.T. Phone Home being everywhere, toys and even games, and mostly talking about that disastrous Atari E.T. game, it influenced everything in pop culture. And E.T. the Extra-Terrestrial is also one of the biggest examples and one of the earliest examples of a very successful product placement, as Reese's Pieces, their sales have skyrocketed after this movie released, after the products were used in the movie. Second, we have some fun facts about the creation of this film. Unlike most movies made nowadays, where you can just see what kind of location you have at hand and then just film the movie in brackets, like you could be filming in the same week the beginning of the movie, the ending of the movie, and then after 3 weeks film another part of that same scene. Like it's a very big thing. But Steven Spielberg decided to mostly create this movie in sequence. This was to make it easier for the child actors, and for their own schedule of course, to have real emotions on scene, as they would just play the movie and act the movie as the way we can also see it. By doing this, it made sure that at the end of this movie, when everything gets fully emotional, everything gets fully wholesome, we can actually see the real raw emotional scenes for everyone. The voice of E.T. is iconic, and the voice was created by Ben Burt. And the way he created this voice was by mixing mechanical sounds with animal sounds together with the speech of an elderly woman who smoked 2 packs of cigarettes a day. Very specific, but it worked for the best. And originally Steven Spielberg wanted the help of NASA to create this movie, to make sure that it was as real as possible. NASA, however, rejected this idea and did not cooperate, just for the fact that they were fearing that this movie would make aliens less scary for children. Ironically though, that's exactly what happened after this movie got released, because, well, people were loving aliens because of this, and especially the more human-friendly natured aliens like E.T. Sadly enough, even though E.T. the Extra-Terrestrial is widely seen as one of the best movies ever made, it's currently at this point not sitting in any of the lists, so it's not in the IMDb top 250 and it's also not in the Letterboxd top 250. But I think it deserves to be there. If you like remakes or reboots or sequels to movies, then you are coming to a cold home today, because there are no remakes, no reboots, and no sequels of E.T. the Extra-Terrestrial. There are no sequels because Steven Spielberg really wanted to make this movie, E.T. the Extra-Terrestrial 1, to make it feel as authentic and as beautiful as possible. He wanted to preserve the legacy, and by not making a sequel, he did exactly that. It did have a darker sequel planned for some time called E.T. 2 Nocturnal Fears. It was going to be darker and not as child-friendly as the first one was, but the idea was ultimately scrapped by Steven Spielberg for the reasons I said just now. So even though there are no remakes, you can still see the impact of this movie in other franchises, like in Super 8, but also in Stranger Things, where the bike and the kids on bikes is a really big thing. But if you want to get absolutely real, there is one knockoff movie, one E.T. knockoff that was entirely sponsored by Coca-Cola and McDonald's, called Mac and Me. And if you think that is completely sponsored, that is just saying it because it is, well, it is, because, well, the aliens survived by drinking Coca-Cola in that movie. You should watch it. It's actually not that bad. It's infamously funny. It's a cult hit. And of course, to top this video off, I will tell you something about my understandings of this film. I have seen it around 3 times now, with 2 times of that being in movie theaters. Today, when I watched the movie in a movie theater because they re-released it for some reason, and also 2 years ago for the 40th anniversary, and then I also watched it one time at home. And I have to say, I keep loving this movie more and more the more I watch it, and it's mostly because of that movie theater experience that just makes everything better, of course, but also because this is just movie magic at its finest. You can say what you want about the child acting, even though Elliot is great, and Elliot and his casting was so incredibly good that he was immediately casted upon his arrival at the studio for his audition tape. He was so incredibly well, and he did it so phenomenally well. You can say what you want about the rest. You can say that it may be a bit too childish for your liking, but you can also say and also look at it from the other's perspective and just admit at how cute this thing actually is, at how well it all works, how incredibly wholesome this movie is, and at how incredible this movie is made. Like it's for me personally, it keeps me hooked upon the very end. And even though the build up towards that spectacular third act sometimes may be a bit slow, the movie magic, due to mostly the score and mostly the way that Steven Spielberg made this movie and the cinematography of the movie it all was, and how it looked and stuff like that, it made sure that this movie is magical. Like whenever the music starts and when they start floating on the bikes in the end, it's just wholesome. You get goosebumps every time you see it, because even though you've seen it countless times before, if you watch the entire thing through, and even if you don't and you just watch that scene, it's incredible. The music is awesome, and this movie is wholesome as hell, and everyone should be loving this movie because it is so wholesome, and because the story is so great, and because E.T. is so cute, and because it's a very important story about acceptance and friendship, and it's mostly about friendship, and that's the most important thing about this movie, and that's why everyone should be hailing in this movie for what it is. This is one of my favorite Steven Spielberg's movies. Not my favorite, because I do have some bangers out there that I just love more from him, but I do love myself some E.T. the Extra-Terrestrial. It's not a movie I can watch on a daily basis. It's not a movie I can re-watch countless times. For now, I have seen it with E.T. I don't need to see it again, in my opinion, but that's just because the movie is so incredibly great and it doesn't need to be re-watched that often. It's not that kind of movie. It's not been made for that, being that movie. It's a movie you should definitely see to have the legacy in your mind, to see what this movie did for everyone. And E.T. the Extra-Terrestrial is one of the cutest, most wholesome movies out there, and I love it very deeply. I'm going to give this movie 4.5 stars out of 10. Or no, 4.5 stars out of 5. A 9 out of 10. What did you think of this movie? Please let me know in the comments down below, because I'm really excited to hear your opinion on it. I want to thank you for watching. Next week we will be talking about Robert Zemeckis' Cast Away. See you next time. Thank you and bye bye.